Hello, 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 hello. All right, I think we're up and running. Had a bit of a technical issue this morning getting the chat going. So, anyway, we are now live. Welcome to Pixel Chatter number 15. Can you believe it? This is the 15th live show that we've run, which is pretty awesome, really. I didn't think that that many people would want to jump in and watch a live show of someone every week doing something. I'm going to actually break a few of the rules and really push my luck this morning and try and do some more advanced editing to give you a bit of an insight into how to really get your images to pop. G'day Brian, g'day Gianni, good to see you here. G'day Tommy, good stuff, good to see you all jumping in. Fantastic stuff. All right, well, spring has sprung. Got to be happy about that. Means it's not so cold in the morning and, get out and take some more photos. G'day Ruven, nice to have you here. Great to see you all jumping into the live chat. Yeah, so as I said before, I'm going to tempt fate and I'm going to try and show you how I use Lightroom, Topaz Adjust and Photoshop when I process my images. And I'm not sure how that's going to go. So we'll give it a go. I've got smaller images to work with. I did a little bit of testing, but I'm not sure how it's going to work. G'day Millsy. G'day Ren. All right, let's get stuck straight into the show. I wanted to say thank you once again for tuning in every week. If you're a new watcher, if you haven't seen the Pixel Chatter show before, please hit the subscribe button. This longer format show is not for everybody, I get it, but some people love to hang around. We have a good old time and a laugh in here. I think I'm having some problems with the stream, but that's okay. We'll see how it goes. No, it's going to continue. If you're a long-time watcher, thank you for coming back. Love to have you here. I just want to let everyone know that we did a webinar during the week for the Patreon VIP webinar junkies. And that was on composition. That was recorded and will be up inside the Patreon page for those of you to access if you're at that level. I'm also going to be doing another VIP hangout. Look out for that inside the VIP group. So if you're a Patreon VIP, thank you, and look out in the group for the next VIP hangout date. I have some new software that I've tested that works really good, and we'll do have a bit of fun in there. Whilst you watch me just edit an image. So that's what those the sessions are going to be, just when Ben does an image. I'm just looking at the chat box. Brian, not here what? I don't know. I think the chat comes through a bit later after I've said something. G'day Prasad from the USA, nice to have you here. Awesome. Alrighty. Now last week we spoke about the D850 because it was had been released and everyone was talking about it and asking about it. The Aussie pricing that I can find is $5,300. It's pretty up there, isn't there? So I don't know how many of you are going to be getting the Nikon D850. I certainly won't be jumping straight into one, considering most of my images I just share online. So the D810 is still going to do me for a while. I was thinking about the Fujifilm GFX. I'm trying to get a loan one to try it out from Fuji, but not easy to do. So I'll just see what happens. At the moment, I am sticking with the D810 for now, although Brian is trying to tempt me, and maybe by the time myself and Brian go to Tasmania next year, I may have one. Who knows? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But at this stage, not happening. All right, let's jump straight into some photo editing. Actually, before I do that, I just want to make sure that if you are new and you didn't know, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm pretty active on both. Try and post an image every day, and you can chat with me there if you want. So make sure you do that. And would love to connect with you there. If you've got a question, something you want to share, then that's where you can go and you can do it. Alrighty, let's jump straight into. Just going to bring up. So this week I've got a couple of images sent in, and what I've done is I'm only going to do. This is a first. I'm doing critique for one person who has sent me 3 photos. I'm going to critique 2 of their photos. And if you want to get your images critiqued live on this show, then what you need to do is you need to send me through 3 images. Make sure you've got the EXIF information if possible, and a bit of information about how you took the photos, and I will critique them on the show. Now these I'm critiquing for Lee Quimby. Lee said they were going to try and get into the live show, but not always possible. I haven't seen Lee in here yet. If you're here, Lee, let us know in the chat box. But I am going to go through a couple of your images. I think you've taken a couple of stunning images, and I'm going to show you how we can make them a little bit more amazing. Let me have a look at this chat box before we get into that. Anthony, g'day, Anthony. Brian says you will have one. Just one, Brian, not 2. I like your optimism, Brian. I like your optimism. All right, let's jump into these images so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alrighty, so I've got these 2 images. This one here I just find really mesmerising. This is one that Lee Quimby took called The Big House. And what an amazing pathway and set of trees. Like, isn't that just gorgeous? I don't know where this is, but I would love to have a look. Oh, here we go. Lee's on. G'day, Lee. On your way home from work now. Just gorgeous, these trees. I tell you what, I'm jealous. I'd love to know where this is, but really, really love that one. And then the other one of Lee's that I'm going to do, and this is a first, I've never done 2 of one photographer's photos on the same show, is this one of this waterfall, which is called CC Falls. Once again, not sure where it is, but a really nice shot, and I'm going to show you what I think we could do to really spice up. And let's start with the waterfall one, in fact, because I think compositionally this photo is nice, and the reason why I say that, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump into Photoshop. Let's just open it in Photoshop quickly. All right, let's see how we go. Let's go into Photoshop. Come on, Photoshop. There we go. We'll stick a couple of layers on top so I can draw on it. I'm going to tell you, I think Lee's done a great job here, and I want to. I'm going to improve this photo, but not so much compositionally. More so, I'm going to do it with some punch, because I think it's very flat. The image is extremely flat, and this is a challenge that so many people have with photography. Even though, let me jump on a layer, get a brush going, make the brush a bit smaller. Here we go. A few of the things that I love about this image. First of all, crikey, bring my brush opacity back up. There we go. Give me some good brush opacity. Here we go. All right. This here is really round. So you've got the foreground happening. Just changed my composition slightly. And what I would have done is, if possible, is I would have gone slightly to the right. And once again, this is just slight changes. So let me just jump onto another layer here. I would have changed my position to the right, and what that would have done is it would have opened this gap here up because of this parallax error, right? So I could have kept this in the lower left of my frame, the water in the lower right of my frame. It would have moved the waterfall slightly and the rock slightly, just to bring them back into the shot a bit more. Now you may have cropped it that way, I'm not sure, but they're just the slight things that I would have done. Not a huge amount of things, it's looking pretty good from an image point of view, but it is very flat. And what I mean by flat is it's not, it's lost its depth, okay? And I'm going to show you how to bring that back. If you want to know how, I'm going to show you. Let me just close this for now. We won't save it. We don't need to save it. And we're going to get back into Lightroom. So, Oak Alley Plantation, is that where it is? Yeah, it looks beautiful, that place. That's the other photo. That was this one, by the way. Oak Alley Plantation. Cool. Lee's in the chat box. He's just told me that's where that one is. Really love this photo. Love this photo. I'll come back to that one. So what I want to do is I want to show you how when I get a photo like this, what I do to bring out the things that are going to really give it a lot of punch. And feel free to ask questions in the chat box as I go through this, because I'm going to show you how I process an image. And I'm going to use a third-party product. So I'm going to use 3 products. I'm going to use Lightroom. I'm going to use Topaz Adjust. If I just quickly go to my screen, hang on one tick. I'll just swap things over quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to use Lightroom. I'm going to use Topaz Adjust, which, with all disclosure, I am one of their featured photographers. So you can see here, Scott, Trey, myself, Blake, and Rick. I've been one of their featured photographers. Love their products. Have used it for years. Okay, so you know, I am. You'll see a lot of my photos I use Topaz Adjust in. Now, if you want to get a copy of Topaz Adjust after this, you can. This is not a sales pitch, by the way. I do get a commission, but you don't pay any more. You get 15% off. So you can go to my website, click on the resources tab, go to Topaz Labs, click on the link, use the code on 3 legs, and you'll get 15% off if you want to buy it. Now, you don't have to buy it. You can use a free trial and try it out. I think it's full featured, but it is limited in time. So entirely up to you as to what you do. But Topaz Adjust is an amazing product. I also use Topaz Studio, but I won't go into that today. But I thought what I'll do is just show you, because I've had a lot of questions about how I get the detail in my images and what it is that I do. So that's sort of, I'm going to really pull back the curtains today and show you my process. So I use Lightroom, Topaz Adjust, and Photoshop, and then finish it off in Lightroom. Okay, so it's like a 4-step process. So what happens is I get an image like this, and I'll make sure I'm happy with the exposure. Okay, here in Lightroom. So you can see by looking at the histogram, everything looks good. The shadows could be lifted up a little bit behind the waterfall, but not super critical. Not super critical at all. I can see that this was shot at ISO 64. So it's the lowest ISO that he could go to. He's shooting with a Nikon D810. He shot it at f16, which means it's going to be nice and sharp throughout the entire image. And he used a 16 to 35mm f4 lens. Great lens. And it can handle it at f16. So, by doing f16, I can tell you this will be sharp through the entire image. So let's just zoom in, we'll have a look. You can see the rock in the foreground here, nice and sharp. If we then go to the top of the falls here, nice and sharp. Everything's beautiful, okay? So really well taken photo. ISO 64, 16mm, f16, and he's ended up with 3 seconds. I'd say shooting probably at aperture priority, not sure, but I'd say that's what it was. Just looking at the chat box quickly, by the way. When I stop like that, that's typically what I'm doing. Brian's asking is Topaz only for crapple? I'm assuming you mean Apple. I don't know, actually. Let's have a quick look. What is Topaz for? Is it just for Apple? Because I've always used... Let's have a quick look. How would we know? I think it's for anything. It's a plug-in for Photoshop or Lightroom, so it probably works with anything. So it's a PC world. So yeah, I'd say it works for everything. Yeah. So there you go. Rick, you made it. Good stuff. Good to have you here. The second photo is from Woodville, Mississippi. Thanks, Lee. Woodville, Mississippi. All right, so I'm going to jump back in now into here. So, well taken image, good exposure all the way, good exposure and good focus all the way through. Important when you start working with an image. Now, little things I'm going to make. I start with global adjustments, and then we start with other minor adjustments afterwards. Gianni says Windows as well. Thanks, Gianni. So, here's what. Now, my computer may struggle a little bit live streaming and processing at the same time, so be patient, but I'm pretty sure we'll get through it. So Lee says he shot this in manual. Okay, cool. So what I do is this image here, I'm going to put it into Topaz first, and the reason I'm going to do that is I want to get some detail out. Now, if you think about the photo and any image, right? When you look at this image, you go, what are the things that I really want to draw the eye to? Well, you've got the waterfall. Okay, so you've got it up here, the waterfall. You've got this rock, okay, down this bottom left-hand corner. I'd love to draw the eye to that a little bit. And then you've got this stream of water here. okay, leading the eye. So it's a leading line up into this waterfall. Okay, so there's some very clear parts of this image that I could make stand out. And, you know, there's some nice greenery going on up here too that could stand out more. So as you think about from an artistic point of view, you go, how do I make this image? Because right now, it's a well-exposed image. It's a nicely composed image. It's a beautiful location, but it's flat. So, and this is a thing that I think so many photographers struggle with, is you go out, you take a photo, you bring it back, you put it on your computer and you go, oh, why doesn't it have as much life as it should, like when I was standing there? And that's a big challenge. So let's open it up into Topaz Adjust. So once you've got the plugin installed, by the way, I'll tell you what I'm doing in case you're wondering. I'm right-clicking and I'm going to edit in, and because I've got the product installed, it automatically becomes a plugin inside of Lightroom and Photoshop. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to copy things into folders, nothing tricky. You just install the product and it will show up in your Lightroom product and your Photoshop product, or one if you've only got one. So here I'm going to click on Topaz Adjust 5, which is the latest version, I believe. I'm going to edit a copy. Okay, it's important that I edit a copy. And I use Lightroom adjustments because if I have made any adjustments, which I haven't today, but let's say I've made a white balance adjustment or a you know, some sort of exposure adjustment or something, I want to bring that across. Okay, so then I'll just hit edit. Now what it's going to do is it's going to create a second, it's going to create a copy, and it's going to open up Topaz Adjust for me. Okay, here it is. Now, if you've never used Adjust, Adjust is, the reason I love Adjust is it's super simple. It's one of the most simplest products you can use. It's easy to overcook an image in here because of all the presets, and you'll see on the left-hand side here there is just dozens of presets, and as you hover your mouse over them, it gives you a look at what it looks like. Now, I could use Topaz several times for several different layers because I use layers to edit my final image, and it's a little bit complex. I'm not going to get into the detail of it today. In fact, I will do a webinar for the webinar junkies at some stage, exactly how I go about doing it. But today, let's just focus on why I use it and how I use it. And it saves me a lot of time because you can do a lot of this in Lightroom or Photoshop, but it's a bit harder to get the results. Inside Topaz, the adjustments become much easier. Now you can see up the left here, they have different types of presets: film collection, HDR collection, stylized, toned, and vibrant. I typically just use the classic collection, and I'll go through and I'll pick something that looks good. And typically, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring out details in a shot, I will jump into these detail presets and look for something. Now you can see that is overdone, and if I go to the before and after, you can see it's definitely overdone. But I just usually use something over here as a starting point. You know, I'll just go to details, light. Let's go back to the original there, and then over on the right hand side, I can start making adjustments. If I go into the details, I can strengthen up the amount of details. I can boost it. Oh, that's a bit too much. Let's bring the strength back. So I can really go in and just make it so I get the details the way I want it. Now, I'm not looking at the image overall because it looks horrible. What I'm looking at are the parts of the image that I want to bring out. I like that. Okay, I'm going to bring the adaptive exposure up. Makes a little change, subtle change. Let's go into color and just boost the saturation a little bit to get, oh, that looks good. Okay, now, if you looked at this image on its own now, it doesn't look good. I'm going to apply that, see what happens, because this is where it's going to work good. So on its own, it's not a great looking photo. That's been over processed. It looks nice, but it is over processed. And if I go to the before and after, well, now I've saved it. It's not going to. I forgot that I've opened it in both of the same now because I've done that. So now I just say OK. I'll show you the before and after in Lightroom. Once you've applied the finish, you can't see the before and after. Okay. So now we're back in Lightroom, and you'll see the difference between the two. I'll move this to the right hand side over here. Yeah, it's struggling a little bit now. There we go. So if I select both and we'll do an XY comparison, you can see that the original's on the left, my edited version is now on the right, and it's got a lot more detail than the one on the left does. In fact, it's got too much detail, right? I've almost ruined the photo. So what I have to do now is I have to fix that. And the way that I do that, now is I need to put them into Photoshop. So let me jump. Right click. So what I do now is I select both images. I right click and I go to edit in and I put open as layers in Photoshop. And I'm really pulling back the curtains today. You're going to see some trickery. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, so let's check the chat box. How's everyone doing, by the way? As Photoshop does this, I can hear my computer fans working a little hard. All right, excellent, excellent. Okay, that's done pretty well, actually. It's coming in pretty quickly. Now you'll see that the top layer, this one is my original layer. Let me zoom to a bit bigger. There we go. If I turn the top layer off by clicking on the eyeball, it shows you my edited layer with all that detail. Now the idea is I want to blend the two together. Now there's a couple of ways I can do it. I can just do an overall blending, which is just go into blending options, choose a blending option and blend the two together, which I'm not going to do because I don't want the detail to come through to the entire image. Remember what I said is I want to bring the detail out in these rocks here and in the waterfall and this stream. And I don't know if you can see the difference there, but in the stream there's this definition. In fact, let me, I'll add a layer. Let's add a layer so I can draw something and then show you. There's this definition. If we have a look here, I just want to highlight where it is. If you look in this area here, okay, when I switch, I'll zoom in so we can see it nice and clearly. I'm going to show you the little things. Oh, get rid of the brush. Go back to the... Oh. Now, what you're going to see, I probably zoomed in a bit too far there. Let me zoom out a bit. There we go. What you'll see in between the two layers is the definition. Okay, so that's the original photo, and when that's the one I just created in Topaz. See the definition just in the water there? You'll see it in the rocks as well, of course. Okay, so we're looking at it really close up, but it gives you an idea. I'm just going to get rid of that layer. We don't want that layer in there. It's just the yellow, my yellow drawing. So you can see how that makes an effect. So what I do is on this image now, I want to bring parts of the detailed image through to this image. So the way that I do that is I select my top layer and I create a mask, a layer mask. That's what that white square there is on the right. What I then do is I grab my brush. I make sure I've got black selected. Okay. And then up here, I'm going to bring the opacity of my brush down to something like 30 odd percent, like that. And in fact, you know what I'll do? I'll bring my opacity up to 100 because I want you to see what happens. And I'm going to zoom in. Let's zoom in to this rock. Let's zoom into this rock here. Hopefully you're enjoying this. I hope it's not too much detail for you in a live video. I'm going to zoom into this rock. Let me know in the comments if this is, enjoyable or not. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my brush a bit bigger, so you can see my brush there. And I'm going to brush black onto this rock, and you'll see the rock transform. Okay, did you see how that happened? Now, if I zoom back out to full size, you'll see that rock now. Oh, wrong button, Ben. Wrong button. The computer's having a little bit of a coronary. Let's go back out to full size. You'll now be able to see that that rock has detail. Okay, you see it's got the detail and it doesn't change when I press the eyeball. So what I've done is I've brought through the detail from the image behind into that rock and nothing else. I'm not affecting any of the other parts of the image. And so what I do is then... So Susan, you're enjoying it? Good. So all you got to do then is go around and just find parts of the image you really want to stand out. Okay. Now, I'm using 100%. What 100% does is over here, if you can see my layer mask, and it's not real easy to see. Let me see if I can make this section a bit bigger. No, it's wrong part, wrong part. Let's see if I can grab the right bit. There we go. It's very hard with my tablet. Then we make this bigger. Can we make this bigger? Please? No, I want to make it bigger. I don't think you can make these layers look bigger. I've never tried before, to be honest with you. But you can see here that it's black here. See where it's black? Okay, those black parts there. If I click on that and I hit my back, what I'm doing is I'm hitting my backslash on my keyboard. See the parts that are gone red? They're the parts that have been masked, okay, with the black. Now, black is revealing and white is concealing. So black is revealing what's in the bottom layer. So if I turn that eyeball off again, anything I paint black is going to bring through this image. Now, if you don't want to bring it through 100%, because, let's face it, that's overdone, instead of doing black, what you do is you do grey. Now, the way you do grey is you just reduce your opacity up here. So see, it's 100%. I like to have it around about 30%, so it's on 32. And now as I paint over things, I'll paint like that, and it puts grey over it. And if I don't think I've got enough detail, I'll paint over again, and it will start to bring the detail through. So I don't know how well you can see that, because it is a very small amount. But if I now show you the red, you'll see how that is more of a faded red, and that's a solid red, because that was 100% black. This is now grey, okay? And so you can see as I brush with the brush how it just adds a bit of pink, and then if I go over it, it makes it darker, and it'll let me keep doing it until it turns completely red, which means I've gone black, and that means I'm revealing everything from behind. But if you have a look now, I've got this amazing detail in my foreground. You see how this is coming to life? So I've got all this detail now in this bit of the stream here. And then I can see that I've put 100% of the detail on these rocks. I normally wouldn't, but I'll leave that there just because we've done it. Now what I want to do is I want to really highlight up here on the waterfall. So watch the waterfalls. We'll do them one at a time. I'm going to just really paint over them. Can you see how they're now popping out? Now you'll see the difference when I bring it back into Lightroom. I can't show you before and after right now because we're working on a Lightroom copy, and when I put it back into Lightroom, that's when you really see it. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that now, but we have brought this waterfall to life. And you know, this is just very simple to do, very easy to do. Once again, if I put my back arrow in there, you can see where I have masked over the waterfall. So I'm just selecting parts of the image that I want to really make stand out. Okay, and if you want to, you know, if it looks a bit strange, you just sort of blend it in by going over the edges with a soft brush. And I actually think it would be nice if this was a bit more vibrant up here, the greens. Oh, look at that. Oh, wow. And I think this rock face here, we could do with a little bit just here to bring out the detail. Yep, I like that. I'm going to just, all right. So that's one part of it done. I'm going to now save that. So just go to File and Save. And what it's doing is it actually saves in Lightroom. So watch this. I'm going to close this now. So I'm going to close this. It's still saving, obviously. And I'm going to go into Lightroom. And you'll see there's now a third image. Okay, so now we've got our original image. We've got our overdone image that we did in Topaz. And we've got the new one, which is a combination of the two. And if I select that one and I select the original, I'll put them side by side. Let's put the original on the right for some reason. Let me switch that over. There we go. So now what you can see is on the left is the original photo, quite flat. On the right, you can see it's starting to come to life. And if you look, if we play spot the difference, it's very minor, but the rock in our foreground is really standing out. Like I said, I've probably overdone it because I was showing you what it looks like at 100%. The stream now, look at the water in the stream. See how much more detail there is in that stream? It looks beautiful, doesn't it? And then if you have a look up here at the waterfall, it's much more vibrant. The greens are more vibrant. The water is more has more clarity, and it looks really nice. Now, I could go and do this again. So what I can do next is I can go back into Topaz, and sometimes I do it several times. So I'll grab the image again, the one that I just edited, and I could put it back into Topaz and make some other adjustments. So let's do that. Let's do it again, and this time we're going to focus on some other parts of the image. So edit in, Topaz adjust. Once again, do a copy. And you're going to end up with lots of copies, but you just got to keep track of them all, right? It gets a little bit tricky. But it is a beautiful way to really make your images pop. Now, I'm going to stay away from the presets now, and I'm going to come across here to the right-hand side. I'm going to go to the color, and I'm going to just really get the colors to be where I want them. And I'm just going to bring the shadows back. I'm going to actually just change. I'm just mucking around with some colors here, just changing the hue of the colors. What color? How do I want things to look? And you can sort of just focus on things. So what I'm trying to focus on here is the areas that are green. So I'm just going to focus on those areas. You can also do things like, for example, noise. You can adjust noise. I'll turn the noise adjustment off for now. And you know, I love this adaptive saturation. It does some great things. And then you can do things that can change the hue, so you can see that I can really throw the colors around a fair bit. And because we're going to blend it in later in Photoshop, we can go, you know, I'll go crazy, right? This saturation boost, watch this. I mean, that's ridiculous, saturation boost. Let's really bring it up. I'll change that hue so it's not totally out of the park. Find something that works. Okay, so I'm going to apply that. Now that looks disgusting, but because we're only going to use little parts of it and we're going to blend it in, you can pick and choose what you want, right? So this is the bit that I love. Did that apply? I didn't see it do it. I think it did. All right, so then I say okay. It then saves it into Lightroom. Let that do its thing, and then we'll close it. I'll close it itself, sorry. And then it will show up in here in Lightroom. So there it is. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to move my last adjusted image to the end of the line in my timeline down the bottom. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got the one that we just edited, which is still, it's good, it's better, but I want to boost some of the colors. So you can see this is the one that I just did in Topaz and boosted all the saturation. So once again, I select the two, I right click, and I go to edit in, and I say open as layers in Photoshop. Not much happening in the chat box. Let me know if you're okay there. If you've got any questions, ask me. I know you're probably trying to soak this all up because it's pretty full on. But I wanted to show you because people ask me, and I don't, you know, I'm not one of these people that is all secretive about how I'm doing things. I'm happy to show you how I get my colors. So you can see there the difference. So if I turn the top layer off, look at all the color in the one behind it, and this is the one in the front. Now there's a couple of ways that I could do this. I could do a blending. I could change the opacity of this layer. If you watch what happens as I do that, it introduces it. See that? I can change it slightly. And what that's doing is it's mixing the two layers together. So that's no opacity, and then slowly as I increase it, it will reduce the effect. So I can have none, I can have a little bit, so you can really adjust it. I always like using adjustment layers because it gives me the opportunity to adjust things with my brush very locally. So what I'm going to do is I want to liven up the greenery in here and just parts of the image. So same thing, grab my brush, make sure I've got black selected over here on the left, make sure my opacity is at about 32%, and then I can start brushing in over the where the greenery is, and bringing through colour in the parts that I want the colour, even in the stream down here. Pretty colour in there. I think this rock had some really nice sandstone colour. So you can see that what I'm doing is I'm just selecting where I want the colour to come through. I really like the green on this rock, so I'm going to really make that punch out. So you can see I'm getting quite local. I'm just doing around the base of this rock where the colour is, and I'm making it pop. Same on this one. Let's make the colour pop on this rock. So these two rocks in the foreground, I really like them. I think he's done a great job putting them into the composition. And I'm just going over the greenery on the waterfall. I don't know if you can see that popping, but as I go over these ferns, because ferns in the rainforest are just beautiful. So look at that. Oh yeah, that looks good, eh? All right. So now that I've done that, I'll show you where I've put the red is my mask, so you can sort of see where I've really brought through the colour. I might just do a little bit more at the top here. Just these trees up here could come to life a little bit more. There we go. Once again, I just go to File, Save. Now, this is a very basic way of doing it. You can do this in a much more complex fashion. Once you learn Photoshop better, you can keep all your changes you can keep in Photoshop and come back to them later. But this is the easiest way to do it. So I'll close that now, and you'll see that image now exists here in Photoshop. Sorry, in Lightroom. So this was the image that we took, put into Topaz and adjusted all the colors. This is after we put it through making those slight adjustments inside of Photoshop. So now, if I go to the very first image that Lee took and the one that I just finished with, we can XY it and have a look at the before and the after. And you can start to see things like the ferns coming to life, all the foliage. Look at the rock in the foreground now. It's taking on a life of its own. Look at the just the colours, how everything's starting to really punch out. So now, if I've thought, select that one. I don't want that one anymore. I just want this one. There we go. Just want the one. There we go. So now what I can do is I can take this one and I can go into my develop module and finish it off in here in Lightroom and make some final adjustments to the overall image. Hang on. Oh, sorry, just letting my dog out of the room. I keep the door shut because it can be quite noisy. All right. So now that I've done all of that, I can come into here. He's going to bark now. I can come in here and I can make some final adjustments. So let's bring the highlights down. So let's get that right. Let's change the temperature slightly because it's a bit too warm. There we go. Let's adjust the exposure just slightly. Let's then sort out the whites and the blacks to get the contrast and the depth. A little bit of contrast there, a little bit of clarity just to really make it punch. All right, now you can see I've done hardly anything there, but I'm going to give you now a before and after, so you can see what we have done. No, hang on, what's it selecting there? Hang on one tick. I want this one here, is what I want on the left hand side, and I want this one here on the right hand side, please. Lightroom. It's struggling a little bit. Let's give it a second to catch up. Come on, Lightroom, you can do it. No, it's not going to do it for me. Why isn't it doing it? Let me move this up here. See if I can make it easier for Lightroom. Come on, Lightroom. Okay, that was there before. Let me go into the library, I think. I'll do it in the library. It's easier. Okay, there we go. It's just, I think it's struggling a little bit. I can hear the fans going. So you can see on the right-hand side is our after. On the left-hand side is the before. So, it depends on your personal taste. but I definitely like to have it a bit punchier. The one on the right, maybe, I might actually just go back in. I think it's a bit too, let me go in here quickly. It's a bit too green. So once again, you can come down here to your colours. I'm going to pull some yellows out. I'm going to pull some greens out. So as soon as you see the yellows, I'm going to pull the yellows back a little bit. Yeah, I think that'll do. Okay, let's go back to the before and after. And then I'll just make these final adjustments. And hopefully you can see how, you know, you can really take an image that has a flat look to it and bring it to life. What is this thing doing to me? There we go. So you can see on the left is the before, on the right is the after. Now, for me, the one on the right has a lot more depth, a lot more punch, a lot more detail. It's the same photo taken. And now, I'm not editing a RAW file here either. What I'm doing is I am editing a JPEG. I think it's a JPEG. Now, it turns it into a TIFF in Topaz, but I'm pretty sure the original file that was sent to me by Lee was a JPEG. G'day, Barracuda. But you can see the before and the after. Now, you know, that is the difference between a photo where someone goes, oh, that's nice, and someone goes, oh, wow, that's amazing. Because you don't always capture all the detail. And you can't, I mean, you can see I'm making adjustments to parts of the image. And the reason I wanted to show you that, a lot of people ask me, and it's no secret to it. It's just about spending a little bit of time. I can do it, like it's taken me a long time because I'm explaining to you what I'm doing. Typically 3 or 4 minutes I'm done. I put it into Topaz, make my adjustments, whack it into Photoshop, bring through what I want. You know, it's pretty easy for me to do. And I just wanted to show you that when you see images that really knock your socks off, even things like, just have a look on the right hand side here. On the very right hand side where the rock is, I brought out the colour in the sandstone. Just little things like that. I mean, if you look from the left here on the left to the one on the right, the colour in the sandstone is popping. The detail in the stream is popping. The green in the ferns now is much more vibrant and is looking good. I would probably, there's still probably a couple of little changes I'll make. Let's jump back into the develop module. Let's just calm down the top a bit with a grad. It's a bit bright up there. Just grab it. Oh. What am I doing? What am I doing? Undo that. Let me try again. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to drop the exposure down a little bit up there. That's all. There we go. I like that. And I'm going to do the same down the bottom. This is a bit of my signature move. You've probably all seen this now. Hold the shift key down, drag it up, and drop the exposure a little bit. There we go. Oh, I like this image, Lee. You've done a great job, my friend. Great job of taking this shot. Look at that. All right, let's jump back into the before and after. Okay. Give me some before and after, please. There we go. Keep switching them around on me. It's funny, isn't it? There we go. Before on the left, after on the right. So you can see I just made some slight adjustments to the top and bottom with exposure. And that really draws the eye into the middle of the image. All right, hopefully you found that helpful because yeah, I wasn't sure how that was going to go with this live streaming because of the the bandwidth required and the memory of the computer required to make it happen was a bit of an unknown, but we got it to work. So Lee, that image, really nice image, and you know, just some tweaks. With some tweaks, you can really make an image that's been well photographed amazing. And you know, when you're shooting raw files, they are flat files. You know, you've got to remember this. You've got to be comfortable jumping into software afterwards and post-processing your image. It's just part of the game. And I know, you know, so many people poo-poo the idea of post-processing. I want to encourage you to post-process, because you want your images to have that impact. You want to go and you've got to look at an image and go, what is it missing? What does it need? What do I want to make stand out? And you know, that's the sort of thing that that's how I get the looks I get. So you know, as I said, I use Topaz Adjust there. If you know, Topaz Adjust is something you want to try, you can download a free trial here. So you go to topazlabs.com/adjust, download a free trial, go and give it a go. Very easy to use, really funky software. You'll see a few of my images on the Topaz page that I've used to do it. If you do decide to buy it, get 15% off. Use the code on3legs. Just go through my website. You'll see here, you've got to click on this link and you've got to use this code and you'll get 15% off. I do, like I said, I get a commission, but you pay the same price and you're going to get some amazing software. And for me, it's the one bit of software I use pretty much all the time. So if you look at my photos and you like the way they look and you want to sort of replicate that, then that's how I do it. And you know, it's a great way to make your images pop. You know, that's what it's all about, isn't it? You know, if you think about it, that's what we're after, is that look. All right, let's jump into the other image that Lee took. So both of these are from Lee. Thanks so much, Lee, for sending these in, because you've got some great photos here. So let's go to this one here. Go back to the single image. Thank you, Lightroom. So this one here, I wouldn't do a lot to change, to be honest with you. I really like it. I love the composition. I like the framing of the house. I love the path. The only thing I might have done is got down a bit lower, but I don't know, because that would have just given you a bit more of the house. I can see there's something here like the attic here that we could have possibly seen if we were a bit lower or maybe a bit closer. And then once again, it just comes down to adjustments. And this is, you know, once again, you could do this the same way I just showed you. I won't go through that all again, but, you know, for me, bring the highlights down. The highlights are really a bit punchy in this image. Bring them down, shadows up a bit, bring the contrast back in, something like that. You know, a bit of clarity, a bit of vibrance. And all of a sudden, you've got a, you know, an image that looked like this on the left, and now you can see the difference on the right. I haven't made a huge amount of difference. A lot of detail in this image. Really good image, mate. Really good photos, Lee. So I think you should be proud of these images. I think you've done a great job. Bring the contrast up a bit more. Contrast is something that says which way you take your photos, unless you're using it. Pull the screen back. Yeah, you need to get, I just see Lee talking about, I'm just pulling back the saturation of the greens a little bit. All right, let's have a look at that. I'm pretty happy with that. Wow, I like it. All right, I've got to change the hue slightly. So I've got a bit of pink on my white up here. So now my white balance is out slightly. So you just got to, there we go, that's better. Actually, I'd be better off doing that locally because, yeah, that's still okay. That's okay. You just got to be careful as you make adjustments. Keep an eye on things that are white, like this building. Yeah, no, I've just seen Lee put a note in the chat box. Really need to calibrate the screen using an old monitor. Yeah, you do. Like, if you want to get the best results, a calibrated screen is important. And you know, I think that's really. I see so many people posting photos where the colours are out, and I use this thing here. It's called a Spider 4 by Data Color. I'll show you. Now they're a few $100s, and I've seen people. I've got people that go, "Can I borrow it off you?" It's no good borrowing one, and the reason is this stays plugged into the computer, and it measures the ambient light all the time, and it lets you know when changes need to be made. So you can borrow it, calibrate your screen, but then you know, you're gonna have to keep borrowing one. Is where this, like I said, it measures the ambient light all the time. It's got like a cradle that sits on the desk. In the first instance, you basically stick that on your screen. When you load it up, it has like an outline. It just took a measurement there. I should have had it facing you. But a blue light flashes when it takes a measurement. So it takes an ambient light measurement. And it's constantly measuring the light in the room. And letting you know if something's out of whack. So really important to make sure that you've got a calibrated screen. I'm loving this Mac that I bought. I bought this Mac about a year ago, and it's got the I don't know, the high resolution screen. I can't remember, the Retina screen, I think they call it. and it's a big screen I've got, so love the Mac. And if you're serious about processing images, then you need to make sure you've got something that's going to be able to handle it, that's for sure. Alrighty, well, that's been a pretty full-on episode, hasn't it? I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoy sharing those things with you guys, so because I know it's going to help you take better photos, which is, really what it's all about, isn't it? So let's wind up the show. Any questions? Anybody got any questions? I didn't even look through my questions before starting the show today. I normally do. Once again, during the week, every week what happens there is I get emails, I get messages, comments on YouTube videos with questions from people. And typically I get 5 to 10 questions rather a week about asking what my tripod is. I get 5 to 10 about whether or not I get vignetting with my Lee 7.5 kit on my Fuji. I get asked those two things, and I get asked how I find my photography locations. Settle down, Tiger. The dog's having a bark. Come here, Banjo. Here's Banjo. You should meet Banjo. He's interested in something out the window. He wants to... Yeah, that's the microphone. Say hello. Oh, he's a bit bored with this already. That's Banjo. That's my pup. I've got 2 pups. Shush, it's all right, mate. He gets a bit upset when there's things going on outside. So, if there's any questions, please shoot them through. If you want me to critique your images on the show, make sure you email through 3 photos to ben@on3legs.com, or the email address is in the links under the video, so feel free to do that. Now, if you've got your own social media channels you want to plug, do it now in the chat box. Everyone can get your social media handles and you can connect as well. And just a reminder, if you're not already a VIP, then you can become a VIP by going to patreon.com/on3legs. We've got a closed Facebook group, which is really active. We're in there chatting away. Brian's trying to tempt me to buy a D850, but he keeps teasing me. We'll see what happens. But a lot of fun going on in the VIP group. Mentioning VIPs, I'm going to do another VIP hangout. The first one was quite difficult because I had a lot of technical issues, and so I've invested in a product called Zoom, which is a meeting software. So I've paid for the pro version. It's only $20 a month, but it means that we can do a hangout with a lot less issue, well, with no technical issues. I tested it with Jill and Tommy, and it worked really well. So we'll be doing another one of those. So if you're in the VIP group, look out for the announcement for that. I haven't selected a date yet. I'm also going to do another webinar for the webinar junkies, and that one is going to be on Lightroom, so more advanced Lightroom techniques. Alrighty, well, thanks once again, gang, for tuning in for Pixel Chatter. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed doing them, and I will see you next week. We'll do it all again next week. And have a look out. I've got another vlog coming out this week. I know we've been a bit slow on the vlogs coming out, but I do have another vlog coming out. Hopefully I'll get it up Monday night for you, or Tuesday night. Anthony, I'll buy your old D810 for $10. I don't think so, Anthony. I don't think so. I've got a D800 as well. So I've got a D800 and a D810. And they're both great cameras. So I say people are going to go jumping because they get FOMO, they fear of missing out. But I think the D850 is a great camera, but unless you're a really serious person selling your prints or publishing in magazines, I don't think there's any need. All right, I'm signing off. Cheerio.